But yeah, I was
Should be
saying
straight.
it's like
rush.
parenting. You know, it's like we grew up on this idea where it's just like you have to listen to them.
Yep.
You know, it's like how you watch it, like you got to do it.
The
And then-
authoritarian
Yeah.
side of the house, you
And
know.
then now, I would like to say we know a little bit better, you know, and so we're being a little bit more mindful about how we go about like our interactions with our kids. But yeah, like it's such a change, you know.
It really is. Like my boys, you know.
Do you mind if I just hit? I'm just
It
gonna
already
hit
is.
re-
It's already-
Oh, it already. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like my boys. It's like Sophia put a very good point. You know, when my second oldest Arthur wouldn't put on a seatbelt, you know,
Yeah.
and then to me, I'm just like, put on your dang seatbelt
Yeah.
because Dad told you to.
Yeah,
You know.
yep.
And then all of a sudden, Sophia goes, Arthur, if you don't put on your seatbelt and we get into a car accident, you could actually really get hurt or even die. You know.
Yeah.
Suddenly, he was like, click.
Yeah.
You know, he just needed to know the why.
Yeah.
Well, and then all of a sudden it just clicks. It just makes sense to him.
Yeah.
But I think that correlates to the generation now that's joining the military. You know, a lot of people are leaving because there is no why, or they don't have a sense of purpose anymore, or they don't really get that sense of purpose from leaders.
Yeah.
I think they probably have some entitlement too these days. Like I'm
Yeah.
not saying entitlement in the wrong way, but entitlement in the sense that you want to know why.
Yeah.
You know, like it's been ingrained into the new generation that you should. I mean, we were like that too, but I feel like now it's even more. It's even stronger. Like you should really know why.
Oh, you
yeah.
really should know why, because when these kids ask, not kids, but when these soldiers ask you why, you better know why you're tasking them to do
you should
certain
know why.
things.
As
You
a good
know,
leader, yeah, you should.
yeah,
know.
as a good leader,
Yeah, you should
you know,
know
you shouldn't be just ordering soldiers
Yeah.
to do whatever
Right.
you think that they should do without actually giving them a sense of purpose of doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with
Kinda
like
funny.
overall patriotism in the states here? Like, I think going down, I guess like there's a less sense of
I don't
pride
know.
in.
But let's. This is.
Okay,
Good.
okay,
Hey,
let's
we're-
switch up.
Yeah, this
Let's
is
switch
good.
up. Okay,
This
okay,
is
okay.
good. This
We're
is
going
good.
down a rabbit hole now.
All right. All right. Welcome to the llfe podcast. Here today we have a very special guest. But first and foremost, to our show sponsors, Yellow Auto Sport. We're actually filming it in the Yellow shop. So you know, if you see me wearing a shirt, make sure you go and cop yourself one. If you love your cars and you take, you know, if you drive a nice car and you take good care of
Shameless
it,
plug.
make sure
Yeah.
you hit up my boy T.
Yellow Auto
at
Sports.
Yellow Auto Sport.
But yeah, let's talk about our guest.
Yeah. So like I said,
What
we
do we
got a
got
real
here
special
today?
guest today, Alan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We had already got into like some really good conversations,
Yes.
like at the start of it. I'm sure you heard some of it, but we're not, you know, that's just a little preview.
We always
as
do
we're
a
gonna
little. We always
deep
do a
dive.
little warm up keynote. If you're gonna start your own podcast, always do a little warm up.
Yeah.
That way you actually get to know your guests a little bit.
I'm glad we filmed that too, because I feel like we always have some of our best conversations before the podcast. Because when the mics turn on, like, oh, you kind of get into your head a little bit,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, we'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll take it from there.
Alan Lee. I really think you guys invite me just because my wife is Sophia Tao, you know. So and a lot of times
Not the
there.
only reason why. Yeah, a small part. Yeah.
I meet so many people that just look at me and they were like, "Are you Sophia Tao's husband?" You know, it's like, yeah, you know. But yeah, I'm one of the admins for Hmong Cornhole, one of the fastest growing sports in Minnesota and across the nation. I've been serving and still currently serving in the Minnesota Army National Guard for 19 years now.
19
So
years.
I'm in the AGR program, which is the active duty program for the Minnesota Army National Guard.
And then what's the retirement? Isn't it 20 years to retire? So are you pretty close to that?
So 20 years reserve or 20 years active duty. So
Okay.
so my total years of service has been 19 total.
Wow.
And
Okay,
then
so
I've been serving active duty for 15 years.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
okay, but you're getting really close
I'm
there, right?
just right
You
there.
were
Is that the
enlisted
goal?
in
Oh.
2004?
2004.
Okay.
I enlisted 2004 as a junior in high school.
Oh, wow.
So, which was funny because it was a, I say that was one of my 2 greatest mistakes in my life.
Mistakes.
Mistake.
Really?
Greatest mistakes.
Greatest mistakes. You know, because I didn't want to join. I want nothing to do with the military.
Really?
You know, it was my best friend from high school, Tang, that wanted to join the military. So he was like, "Hey, Alan, go with me during lunch to go talk with these recruiters." I was like, "Sure, why not? You know, I'm just there for you."
Yeah.
You know, so I went with him, and then they made us fill out like a little point of contact sheet, right?
Yeah.
I put on a fake name, but real address.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, the recruiter comes knocking at my door, and then my friend Tang was with him, and it was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Nothing." It was like, "You want to go down to Minneapolis?"
Yeah.
I was like, "For what?" They're like, "Oh, talk about opportunities, you know?"
Yeah.
I was like,
Sounds like a pyramid scheme.
yeah, right? I was like, "Oh, I ain't got nothing to do." And then my buddy Tang was like, "Just go with me."
Yeah.
You know, and I caved into peer pressure, you know, and it didn't take much. And I was like, "All right, let's go." And then we got to Minneapolis, you know, the recruiters did their thing, you know, and sold me on a long list of opportunities. And then it really made sense, you know. It was like, hey, college funds.
Yeah.
Hey, what's in it for your future? Hey, what do you want to do, you know? And to me, growing up, it was always just go college. No, graduate high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go college. That's it. That was the guidance from my parents, right?
Yeah.
And then my older sister, Priscilla, she just happened to go to St. Thomas. And I remember my mom and my dad having to co-sign student loans for her. So it made me think, I was like, dang, they co-signed student loans for her. What about me?
Yeah.
How am I going to pay for college, you know? And especially being 17, not knowing grants, not knowing scholarships, not even being aware of any of that. And a recruiter is right in front of your face and saying, hey,
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
we'll take care of you,
we'll take
you
care
know?
of it.
And I was just like, done deal.
Yeah.
Let's go, you know?
But 19 years later, you're still involved now, active duty, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
And it's like my wife said, you know, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, my career has been very weird because in like 2000, I remember they put you through an RSP program, right? Where it's like before you ship off, they try to like mold you for a boot camp, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember my very first one, they made us low crawl in the park, and then it got to, I was in civvies,
Yeah.
and
What's
a
civvies?
civilian
Okay,
attire.
okay.
So
You
any
guys- okay.
any clothing that's not your Marine Corps uniform, or
Yeah,
sorry, not Marine Corps,
Military
is civvies.
Civvies.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Short for civilians.
Okay, in case you guys didn't know, like we have two veterans here, or one active duty and a
Yeah.
veteran here, and I'm the only. I was a pussy, so I didn't join the military.
He's serving today by making honey for the world. So.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
trying to do my best here, playing my part. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so we got to like the baseball field and I stopped, you know, and then like the cadre was like, I didn't tell you to stop, you know, keep going.
Yeah.
I was like, in my head, I was like, dang, this is my only pair of shoes for the entire school year.
Yeah.
This is only like one pair of pants out of like 3 that I rotate through the school year.
Right.
You know, being in Minneapolis, poor, whatever, right? And then I was like, all right. I went through it. I stood up. My whole shirt, everything was just yellow, orange, everything, you know. And then I was like so pissed off. I was like, F this, you know.
Yeah.
This was in Northeast Minneapolis, and I lived in North Side.
Yep.
So during lunch, I was like, F this. I walked home. You know, I walked home, and then the commander came knocking on my door and was like, you just went AWOL. I'm going to kick you out. You're going to get arrested. I was like, do it.
Yeah.
You know, I slammed the door. And then all of a sudden, like, he took a different approach, you know, because my mom was like, what's going on, this and that. And then all of a sudden, he took a different approach. It was like, hey, what's happening? What you know? And I told him, and he was like, oh, snap. we didn't think about that.
Right,
You know, and then suddenly it was like hey, how about I get your clothes dry clean, get you a new, make sure everything's good, and then it was like, yeah, here you go clean this for me,
So a recruiter doing what a recruiter does.
Correct, but at first his stance was like authoritarian, like, oh, AWOL, this and that, and then all of a sudden took it notch back. It was like, oh yeah, we effed up, you know, and then like even now today, that was 19 years ago. So now today, when we like smoke these new recruits, it's like we gotta make sure that they are in like proper uniform or some track suits that we provide them, and be more aware of like every individual's background and uniqueness, you know. Right. And then because like even he said, he was like, oh dang, we didn't even think about that, right. And it was like, oh, we could have lost a soldier, a potential soldier, because of something so small, right? Yeah. Well, they think that was small, but to me, it was huge. Hey, my mom can't afford to replace this, you know? Right. But yeah, it was like fast forward now, 19 years, Chief Warrant Officer 2. Oh, yeah. So I've stayed.
That was my next question, was going to be, what is your rank today?
Yep. So I'm a Chief Warrant Officer. So a rank is Chief Warrant Officer 2. So it pretty much goes Warrant Officer, Chief Warrant Officer 2, 3, 4, and the 5. Yeah. So
to those who don't understand, Chief Warrant Officer is basically, the military has two sides to it. It's going to be the officer side and the enlisted side. And then you can either be an officer or you can be an enlisted. But you can also be an enlisted and transition over to the other side, and then you get called a Chief Warrant Officer. You're correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you're an enlisted, so you're basically what we would consider like the blue-collar worker, and you're stepping over to the white-collar, right? Yeah, you're stepping over to the white-collar side, but because you come from a blue-collar background, instead of just being an officer, you're a Chief Warrant Officer, which comes with its own perks, because usually you'll get the respect from both sides.
Yeah, usually. You're more in the gray and not necessarily right into the black,
you're like a
dark side.
white-collar guy who comes from a blue-collar background.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so
then
you've been on the factory floor.
You've been on the factory.
Exactly.
Okay. That's exactly it.
So like in the officers, like enlisted, that goes full commission officers. We call them Mustangs, because they've been in the grinder, And then like Chief Warrant Officers, in order for you to become a Chief Warrant Officer, you have to be like the subject matter expert in your career field. So it willy-nilly, anybody can't just be a Chief Warrant Officer, So there is more, I guess, respect amongst the cohort for chiefs. A lot of time is like, oh, Chief said it, so it's like, Roger, check. I'm pretty sure he's a SME. He should know, so you just carry on, So it's pretty cool going through that process. I was fortunate enough to be one of the first 4 in the entire nation to be a chief, to become a warrant officer.
Is that a new thing in the guards or army?
No, it is not new. Okay. It's so new to the Hmong community.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about first within the Hmong community.
In the Hmong community. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm one of the first in the Hmong community to become a Chief Warrant Officer.
Warrant Officer,
And a lot of times everybody says, "Why is that?" And it's mainly because a lot of Hmong people that have served, we only serve like the first term, and then we're done. Like our first 4 years, 6 years, and then we're done.
Guilty.
Because that's kind of what I see.
Yeah.
Like my brother was in the
the
Navy,
military. You, and we won't ask you any. I'm not gonna ask you anything that's gonna jeopardize your role, because I respect where you are. But is retention in the military these days? What's the retention rate? Because you must have some knowledge of that. What's the retention rate of people staying after their first contract? How much are dropping off? More than half, right?
So are you talking entirely, or are you talking just the Hmong community?
No, let's talk about what you are familiar with. So in your case, it's gonna be the National Guards, right?
Yeah.
What's the drop-off rate after a first contract? Are you guys able to retain at least 50% of the forces that after a first contract?
For the past 2-3 years now, we have been struggling to retain soldiers.
Okay.
The rate itself, I'm not necessarily sure.
That's a different department.
But
stats,
to be honest, so I'm the warrant officer strength manager for the Minnesota Army National Guard. So I recruit current members to become warrants. Okay. So right now, for calendar year 23 and 24, I'll be fine because you need certain experience to become a warrant.
Right.
But as I do like future analysis, because of the retention, I'm losing all these guys with experience. So when it comes to calendar year 25, 26, I might be hurting to find warrants, because everybody's leaving. It's also kind of funny because the Hmong community, the Asian community in the Minnesota Army National Guard is the largest minority population, which doesn't match Minnesota minority population because it's African Americans.
Sure.
There's a lot of Hmong soldiers, and then right now the first generation Hmong soldiers are joined during my time.
Right. Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Our generation.
Our
the
generation.
Early 2000s.
And then now it's slowly dying off because it's starting to become second generation.
Yeah.
But the Korean population just came, right? And then now they're increasing in enlistments.
Yeah.
So there's a trend going on right now, but everybody, as many as we recruit in, that's as many as we lose as well.
Right.
So the retention piece is key to a strong military right now.
Yeah, of course.
And ultimately, it's very difficult to retain some of these guys because, in my honest opinion, I feel like the military is sort of kind of stagnant right now compared to the civilian sector.
Right.
When back in early 2000, that's like the internet boom, that came from the Air Force. Our technology was so advanced, and then now we're driving Humvees that you have to PMCS, which is like check your vehicles for leaks and everything.
Yeah.
While there's like F-150s that does way better.
Yeah.
You see a Toyota Hilux with a Tarrant on the back compared to ours.
I'll say it right now because, look, I did 6 years in the Marine Corps and I did
6 years.
Yep, 6 years in the Marine Corps, 9 years as a St. Paul firefighter. So I worked with government both on the federal side and the local side, right? And I'm not in either one, so I speak freely these days. I'll say right now, the government does not move quick. They've never been known to move quick, and they will probably, I hope, crossing finger for future generations that it will move quicker. But it will never will never catch up to the private sector because the private sector is it's monetary. It's motivated by funding and money, and so is the government. But there's so many levels of filtration that you have to go through in the government that it takes forever to get change passed through. And so, like you said, you are forced to deal with old machines, old things that when you look at the private sector, you're like, how come we're not driving F-350 with dualies? And then mount the 50 cal on that. You could do it. It's doable.
Hey.
But for some reason, we're using 2004 Humvees that we just repainted.
Communication sucks, and then it's like I got my cell phone right here. My cell phone will give me navigation a lot quicker than that Blue Force tracker. It's like my communication to you and I, during exercises, it's a lot easier on my palm than through the military system.
It's almost like the military is like, oh, man, I'm gonna just go on a random number and say like almost 25 years behind.
It feels like it.
At least
that is crazy.
Behind.
It truly feels like it, and it's like there's good leaders, there's great leaders. I'm not trying to bash anything, or anyone, but like the rank structure, it's how did I say this? Sometimes you get your rank based off of seniority.
Right.
Sometimes seniority isn't the best leader because they're not in touch with today's generation. Right? So now you're being led by dinosaurs, and
Yeah,
you just scratch your head and go,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know?
It's not even the most qualified person. It's just whoever's been there the longest.
Correct.
Whoever just kind
But
of.
I think that's also what makes it. And this is, I'm going to talk about this not just for the military, but also in relation to like the civilian sector. I think that's what makes a good leader, though. A good leader has the ability to resonate with the people of his generation, right? Because a leader is probably going to be like 40, 45, 50
Yep.
and
Yeah.
up. She has the ability to adapt to his own generation and get along with them. But he's also going to have the ability to step in the boots of a private that's 18, 19 years old.
Right.
And yeah, he might not listen to 21 Savage, but he might still turn on to 21 Savage just to understand what the 19-year-old is thinking,
Yeah.
just so that he can be a little bit more aligned with them. And that's good leadership that I think, these are the things that I like to listen to, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like that works not just on the military sector, but in the civilian side
Yeah.
or like anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to, and you guys both have kids, so
Right.
you either be the old guy or you have to. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have children yet, but I assume that if you don't try to understand what your kids understand, that you're quickly gonna disconnect from them, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, we
Yeah.
see there's so much. We were talking about this actually, like even before the podcast. It was like it relates so much to, I mean, parenting, right? Because we were talking about how we grew up when with authoritarian parents. It was when they said something, it had to be done, and you don't question it. Like you just do it. Nowadays, like I think the kids want to know why, and
Yep.
you almost want to promote. You want to promote your kids to question things, and you
Right.
want them to ask why. You want them to be curious about things, and then at the same time, like you as a parent, like you have to be able to kind of speak to some of that because I mean, in parenting, it's easy to talk about, but I would say like there's so many moving parts and so many different variables. Like it's so hard sometimes. Like sometimes the easiest thing to do as a parent is to just go, shut up and do what I say.
Yeah.
That is the easy route, you know, but it does take a little bit more finesse to go, hey, this is why this happens. This is why you should do X, Y, and Z. So like, and you're a father to how many kids?
4 kids.
4 kids.
Four
yeah,
kids.
Yeah, that's right. 4 boys.
3 boys and a girl.
Okay.
Nice.
You know, so
Okay. Age. I guess you don't have to say age. Yeah, yeah.
11, 9,
Okay.
4, and 2.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
You get the whole spectrum.
whole
Yeah.
the whole spectrum
You got a
right
whole
now,
decade,
you know.
yeah.
And then again, like Sophia hates it when I say this, you know. My second greatest mistake was Asher, you know, my oldest.
Your 11-year-old?
That's my oldest, you know, 11-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a, yeah, I say it's an accident, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a oops,
It's a
baby.
happy accident.
Yep,
Yeah,
and then we found out she was pregnant about like a month before I deployed on my second deployment.
Okay.
You know, so she went through the
Yeah, it's a
entire
tough time,
pregnancy
yeah.
without me. So it was a weird situation where, hey, I left and she was Sophia, and I came back and was like, hey, here's a 4-month-old
Okay,
baby,
so
and it's
your baby
yours.
was your eldest son, right?
Yeah.
Asher was born when you were overseas.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a crazy moment too.
Yeah.
That's gotta be crazy.
Yeah, and let's
man.
talk about that real quick while we're on that
Yeah.
topic because when I was in the military, I saw that happen a lot. Either children were born, or like either you found out you had a kid, or your kid was born, and it's different if you're stateside. Sometimes I know they'll allow you to go back to
Yep.
to see the birth of your child, but when you're overseas, you're on like orders to like basically you're on a project to
Yep.
work, so you can't really come back. And like what was that challenge like for you to your first kid is born and you can't even be there? Like, did that bring resentment to you? Because how old were you at that time? Like 23, 24?
24.
Okay, so like, I mean, it usually tends to bring up resentment because you want to be there, right?
I think I never really seen the resentment from. I never really faced the resentment because
Yeah.
I was a little bit fortunate. So when I deployed, we had at that time we still had 2-week R&R blocks.
Yeah.
So her due date was actually January.
Okay.
Right, and then my first line leader, phenomenal leader, one of the best I've had. You know, Paul Lucier. He because Sophia and I weren't legally married, I
Right.
couldn't come home on emergency
okay,
leave.
Okay.
So what he did was he allowed me to pick the block of leave where she was supposed to be due, and I was like, okay, this is her due date. Asher decided to come a month early.
Okay.
So during that time, we only had Facebook at that time, maybe, and then Sophia was like pinging me, 9-hour difference, was like, I think my water broke, and and I was like, hey, is there any way for me to go? And then he was like, my leader was like, hey, there's a block leave right now. We could just swap you too, and then get going now, I was like, yup, Roger, check, let's go. And then got to Kuwait, and I was on Skype with Sophia the whole time,
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I gotta go through customs. I'll be right back, And then she's already in the hospital, right?
Right.
And then next thing you know, I got through customs. I popped back up, and then I was calling, no answer. Suddenly picked up, and then it was my sister holding Asher, and was like, "Hey, here's the baby." And I was like, "Dang, this entire time I was with you, and the only 2 hours that I was gone, you gave birth."
You missed the entrance.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you missed the great entrance.
And then like the resentment piece, it wasn't really there until.
But I mean, because it sounds like they gave you the opportunity to,
Yeah.
to try to make it happen.
Oh yeah, and
So
that was
yeah,
that was
I
my
can get that.
that was my sergeant, that was my platoon sergeant that went out and
out
beyond
of
to
his
make
way,
that
yeah.
happen, and that's what like in the military, there's like two types of leaders that you want to be, is the one that you want to become and the one
Yeah.
that you don't want to become,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Yep.
and he's definitely one that I want to become,
Yeah.
that I shaped my career towards. The resentment piece, I think Sophia and I we clashed during during her second pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because that was her second pregnancy.
Yeah.
That was my first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
you
experience
were
it all.
stateside.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
stateside. When Sophia was pregnant with Arthur. So Sophia's expectation of me was already here while I knew nothing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you hadn't
Yeah.
been through it yet.
Yeah, and then like she always had to be like, oh, I gotta remind myself that you weren't here.
Yeah.
You weren't here for Asher. You weren't.
Right.
You didn't go through.
You have no idea
the
what's the next
morning
process. Like,
sick-
what do we do after this? Like,
Yeah.
where do we go after this? Like,
So,
no
so
idea,
that was
yeah.
like the hard part, especially when Arthur was born. Because when I came home, Asher was already 4 months old.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
4 months already.
And
okay.
then for Arthur though, I went through it all. I'm like, oh, this is new to
Yeah.
me. This
Yeah.
this
Those first 4
sucks.
months are brutal. Yeah,
they
those
they
first-
are.
yeah.
So it was difficult times where I truly appreciate Sophia for it.
Yeah.
And then it makes me like take a step back where it goes, dang, you did this yourself.
Yeah,
right.
You were a single mom
Yeah.
at this age by yourself because I was overseas.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I think, like when people think military, they think of different things. Like it's like sacrificing your time to go like fight war, which is not everybody. That's just some people. And then like they just don't think of the whole experience. And because we've been in the military and you've been through it, I don't even have kids yet, but people don't realize, and this is something that I want to give the credit to military members, is that it's like you do go through big life things that most people would just be there for, and you don't realize just how much is missed unless you go in the military, and you don't have the freedom to just, you not wanting to be there is not your choice. It's like powers beyond you that doesn't allow you to be there. And it can be resentment and that's why I went to resentment first, because I feel like obviously you explained after that they tried their best, but it can be resentment for some people too, because that's like the most important moment of your life.
Oh yeah.
But you gotta miss it. You know?
Yeah, 'cause even just hearing you say that like makes me feel a certain way. Like it like tugs at my heartstrings
Yeah.
already, because I'm already like I can't imagine missing
that, right?
Like it would be like.
You
I
need
would
a
be
strong
so-
wife. You need a strong wife that doesn't
so,
hold
like,
it against
props
you.
to you. Like that,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
I
Props
had
to you guys.
a soldier that he missed like 17 of his 17 of his daughter's birthdays because of training.
Holy
Oh,
shit. I thought you were gonna
17.
say 17 kids.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
holy
no,
shit,
no, no.
that boy's been
Yeah,
training.
that is poet.
17 birthdays because our training schedule usually
yeah.
like, hey, your annual training
AT,
is usually
yeah.
during August time frame,
Right,
you know.
right.
And it's like it's sad to think about because Sophia and I, we planned our kids to not be born around August and September timeframe, knowing that I have annual training
Yeah,
around
yeah,
that
yeah.
time, you know, which kind of sucks, you know, because I guess we're fertile versus a lot of other individuals who've been trying for years and years, and then suddenly you're serving and you finally have your kid, and sucks that they're born in August, you know.
yeah.
So there are times, tough times like that, where it just sucks, and sometimes like you think I choose to be gone, you know. It's
Right,
like
right,
we
right,
don't
right.
choose to be gone, you know. There's certain people who's like, oh, I love it, I volunteer for that,
Yeah.
you know, but most of the time, a lot of people is like, nope, I just go for God and country, you know.
It takes a big burden on a relationship, that's for sure.
Because did you meet Lita after?
No, yeah, it was
You met
after
your
the
wife
military.
after?
Yeah, because
Okay,
my
okay.
wife was in the service too, but it was well after all the service. But man,
She
knowing
was
my
in the service too?
yeah, she was in the Marine Corps for 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't
Holy
know
shit,
that?
badass.
Yeah, yeah, and-
Dude,
no,
that's
I
amazing.
think that for
Yeah.
me, I think for me, like when I saw it, like I would have had some resentment myself. I think just because that to me is such. I mean, and to everybody, it's such an important moment.
Yeah.
And so for the military to tell you like, no, you can't. But like you said, your story at least they tried.
Yeah.
They tried. So at least they tried. But
Yeah.
if they're like, nope, you can't, I'd be like, what do you mean I can't? This
Yeah.
is my child.
Yeah.
And that happens for a lot of people. So this is what I would like to highlight it for all the soldiers, Marines, sailors, all those guys who, or girls, well, yeah, mostly guys, right? Because they're the ones that they're not the ones giving birth.
Yeah, careful now.
Yeah,
No,
who,
just
who
kidding.
cannot, who can't be there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's a challenge that it's cool for us to speak about because it's not thought about unless you're actually part of it.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to just put it out
Like
there.
I would have never thought.
Yeah,
about
you don't think that far.
No.
Yeah, you don't.
Not when it comes to
Until you-
certain things like
yeah,
this, where
yeah.
it's like, oh, I never
You miss
I
a lot
never
of
thought
things
about that.
Yeah,
you know,
miss a lot of things for service. Yeah, but that's a good story to share, and I'm sure 19 years in the service,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've missed a lot of things too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the overall goal of like? Are you planning to retire at 20?
so
20 years?
if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said my ultimate goal was to be the command chief warrant officer for the Minnesota Army National
Yeah.
Guard.
Yeah.
And then like I went through this whole mental health crisis, midlife crisis thing.
Yeah.
Where my mental health sort of took a toll.
Yeah.
And it gave me a different perspective in life, a different view of my career, a different view of my morals, my values, my principles in life, and how I want to proceed in life. So my goal is to get 20 years active duty and be done. You
Yeah.
know, not serve anymore after that. I'm grateful for everything that the military has provided me. I wouldn't be the man I am today without it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am today without it. You know, but there's so much more to life than the military right now for me, and it took a lot for me to realize that, and to be able to retire at the age of 43
Yeah.
and still have some time with my kiddos. I think that's my ultimate goal right there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And they take pretty good care of you guys, right? From what I hear, like one of my best friends is he's still active duty too, and so he's always been trying to recruit me since like college. But,
Yeah.
But he would tell me about like all the perks, like. But they take pretty good care of you guys after retirement.
How do I say this? To an extent, they
Okay.
depends on how you view it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, hey, not try and knock on this, you know, but a lot of times it's like, hey, I tell my soldiers this too, you know, is take a look at life right now, and do you truly, is this reenlistment bonus really something that will benefit you, right, at this moment in time? Because a lot of time they're like, oh, $20,000,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they didn't realize that $20,000 is going to be taxed.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't realize that APFT and high and weight
Yeah,
and
because
ACFT.
how does it come in? How does 20, like, let's just play a scenario, 20 grand. Like, if I don't know anything about the military, because I enlisted without no bonuses. Let's say you say I enlist and there's a $20,000 bonus. So you get hit on your taxes first, right? So you lose
Yep.
money on your taxes first. And then how does
And
it
they
come?
tax y'all?
Yeah, unless you're overseas, unless you sign a
re-enlist
contract
and-
overseas,
Yeah.
and then it's tax free.
So then you lose your taxes, and then how does it get distributed to you? Sometimes it's split in multiple payments.
Yep.
Sometimes it's lump sum, right?
It depends on your addendum and when you sign it. A lot of times I did see that it's split into 3 payments.
Okay.
Right? When you start your new contract, middle of your contract, at the end of your contract.
Okay.
You know, or
Which
it's
means
split
you have
between
to
2.
meet the end of the road.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You have to meet the end of the road, or you have to meet the criteria,
Yeah.
or maintain the standard.
Yep.
You know, so say, hey, you got your first payment, right? And then
Yeah.
you failed your physical test.
Right.
Hey, and you give Uncle Sam his money back.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So and if you break it down too, hey, $20K, let's just say after taxes you get $16K.
Right.
You sign for 6 years. Divide that by 6 years. Divide that by
you get
60 months.
like $1,800. Yeah, you gain like
ultimately you're only
$300
getting
a month.
$200
Yeah.
a month, you know, and it was like, is that really worth it? You
Yeah.
know, but hey, to each their own, because you know what? At the age of 23, 24, you might need that $16K for a down payment.
Yeah.
On a house, you know.
Right.
I've always been, I always joked about, I would re-enlist if you knock 2% off my mortgage.
Yeah.
You know, it's
yeah.
like, give me something bigger. Give me
Right.
not a VA loan. Give me a guaranteed mortgage loan.
Yeah,
You know, it's not a VA back loan. Give me a guaranteed mortgage loan and
Yeah.
knock a few interest rates off for me, and then
Right.
I will sign as a lifer. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and it's like, give me something more
Yeah,
incentivized
but I think we're
than
getting
cash
too.
money.
That's the problem. we're becoming a little bit older and we're a little too wise. I mean, I wouldn't say too wise, but we're just a little bit smarter. Because if you ask me today, like I'm 35 now, if I was to reenlist today, bro, I want like. I want this whole business paid off.
Yeah.
I want everything before I go and sign because we understand at 18 years old, we don't understand things like what you talked about where you missed your child's birth, right? You don't
Yeah.
even think about that because you don't even know that you're going to have kids. When you're 18, you're not thinking you're going to even have kids yet.
Yeah.
So you don't know anything. And then you get older and you realize like, wow, I actually commit a lot of my time and sacrifice a lot of my, not just time, but mental space and mental efforts towards this entity, which we call, whether it be Army, Navy, Coast Guard, or
Yeah.
anything like that. And it's a lot of, to those who have not served, and I keep bringing it back to this, but this is a good time to just let it be known that if you do, let's say you're 17 and you're listening to this right now, like that is my piece of advice, being older, having served, is that just know that you're going to sacrifice a lot of your time, even though it doesn't feel like it now because you're 18. And then to those who are older, for you is just to know that that is the cost, and to those who are in the service, you felt it. So
Like to me, it's like, I'm not trying to say, hey, join the military. Don't
Yeah.
join the military, you know. But it's like, there's so many resources now and so many individuals now that you have to ask the right questions, and you have to be brutally honest and upfront when you ask these questions to the recruiters, to people who used to serve, you know, so that way you get the in-depth knowledge of, is this really right for me?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a great perspective because like me not having served, like I work with like a lot of young people and stuff, but like I always tell people like if they're not doing anything, like this is a great opportunity to travel the world, and I would like talk it up, but like after hearing that, I think I might have to like rethink some of those comments that I've said.
It's funny because a lot of people think that military is like the second option.
Yeah.
Military just don't take anybody as well. You got to pass the ASVAB. You got to be medically fit, you know, and like the military could say no to you if you got flat feet.
Yeah.
You know, they make you duck walk and stuff to see if you got flat feet. If you got you gotta have a straight spine, you know. Some crazy stuff that I heard was like, you know, your testicles were too small, you know, if you got like this eye issues, you know.
Yeah.
Here I am.
So
like,
basically,
oh, like too much
basically
of a
what
pussy
I'm,
to join,
what I'm
but,
hearing
like,
is
I wouldn't
that
have made it anyways.
yeah, what I'm hearing is that if you're not a good piece of equipment for the government to utilize and you won't cost them money in the long run, then you're good to enter.
Exactly.
But I'm speaking freely, like I said, I'm not in the service anymore, and I can speak what I freely like that. But I mean, it kind of is what it is. At the end of the day, it's cost efficiency and it's cost savings. You know,
So like a prime example right now, I could talk about this because it's like a recruiting issue that the military is currently having is they're looking at the individual's past medical history, right, to screen them out, and, you know. So, for example, it's a little bit outdated, like how we said 20, 25 years old, right? Yeah. They're saying, hey, if you take anti-anxiety pills, you're out, you know, you're disqualified. Really? But anti-anxiety pills makes you better, but yet you're not supposed to be taking that. Right. You know, but once you're in, you're fine. Yeah. And then you can start taking that stuff. Yeah. You know, so or like ADHD. Yeah. Hey, a lot of us have some kind of ADHD some way, somehow. Yeah. You know, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you're taking Adderall that actually helps you perform better. Yeah, disqualified.
Yeah. You would think with low recruitment numbers that they would be like more flexible with like stuff like that. And plus, don't you want to like get your soldiers doped up with like Adderall and stuff like, before they go running and
more
shooting
attentive?
You know?
No, I mean I do think there. I mean, you know, like I don't know. I was only a low enlisted personnel, but I would think that, you know, if you are in a war, I mean, it's just common sense, right? If you're in a time of war and the bodies, we're gonna calm the bodies because if the military calls it. If you need more individuals to get in there because we're actively fighting and we're losing people and we need to replace those individuals, then yes, things do change. There's more waivers. There's more. You know, we turn our backs. We don't look as much exactly. But now we're not in a time of war right now, so you can be strict. You can be a little bit more strict. Yeah, you can be a little more strict about not. You know, you won't take a high risk. You know, it's like a high risk asset. You wouldn't take a high risk asset in a moment when it's not necessary. You know?
No,
so it's everything is very. I mean, it's a business. It's a business.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like if you take on one of those, it can potentially cost you a lot more money.
It costs you more money. Yeah.
You meet all kind of people. I'm gonna tell you that. Like every soldier is not a NCAA D1 athlete, you know. It's like, look at me, I'm fucking, I'm scrawny as hell, you know. Right. When I joined, I was 105 pounds. You know, my recruiter made me eat like 5 bananas, 3 peanut butter sandwiches just to make sure I meet the minimum weight requirement. Yeah. You know, and then there's some guys where it's just like, I didn't feel like I was that much of a athlete, but man, there's some guys where it's like, I don't think you're even anything close to it, you know. Right. But there's the military comes. You meet all kind of forms of people, which is pretty awesome too. Yeah. It's like, hey, we all wear green, and suddenly when you wear your civilian clothes, you go, huh, never thought this dude would look like that, you know, or never thought this woman would look like that. Yeah. So
that is a funny angle of the military. But I'm going to talk about a different thing now because we've been on this military for a minute. Let's talk quickly because we are a little bit getting short on time. But let's talk cornhole because this is huge in the Hmong community. Well, overall it's huge, but in the Hmong community, it's been like buzzing lately the last, would you say 5 years, 6 years?
3 years.
Past 3 years.
Past 3 years. It's funny because cornhole, I learned the game of cornhole through the military.
Oh, okay.
So back in 2011 when we deployed, you know, when we were bored, we played horseshoes and cornhole. Yeah. I never really thought much of it. You know, I just thought that, hey, white man's game,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's for white people. You know, it's a yard game.
Yeah.
And then I would bring her, like when I came back, I would bring her around to like my friends and cousins and them and barbecue events. And they're like, Alan, nobody wants to play this white game with you, you know?
Yeah.
And then suddenly 3 years ago, for actually Labor Day, 3 years ago, Labor Day was the Hmong Cornhole's first tournament in Minnesota. So that's where I linked up with all the current members that we have.
Yeah.
And it was from my little brother. He actually was friends with one of them that shared the event. And then my little brother was like, Alan, they're playing your game. I was like, what game? He was like, that dumb beanbag game that you always play, you know? And I was like, maybe I should, maybe I should go play. You know, so me and my cousin decided to go and compete. And then I was just like, oh, this ain't too bad, you know. We didn't really know what bags. We didn't really know regulation. We didn't even know that there was a American Cornhole League. We didn't even know that there was professional. And then suddenly it was like, hey, let's start. Like Hmong Cornhole was established by Sue, Tua, Jer, and Ku. And then Ku's a good friend of mine, you know. And then he was like, hey, Alan, you know, we're going to be throwing in backyard. You want to come? And I was like, hey, I work at an armory where it's a gymnasium, pretty much. Our drill floor is a gymnasium. Why won't we play indoors, you know? And they're like, oh, yeah, let's set it up. Let's do it. And then suddenly it was like 12 of us, 13 of us throughout that whole winter. And then suddenly it started gaining traction, and it like boomed like a wildfire.
Yeah.
There was like 16, 20 of us, and then suddenly there's like 50 of us.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you know, we did it at Unison, and there was 100 of us. Yeah. And then on a weekly basis, it's just continued to be 100, 100.
Yeah, because the explosion's been real.
Oh,
like,
it's been
I don't
it's been
play,
real.
but I've watched it.
No, it is
from
crazy.
from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, and then like last year, every Hmong New Year had a cornhole tournament, but California.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's up with California, you know? And then one of my friend, online friends that follows us on Hmong Cornhole, he finally got a tournament going, you know, Jess. So hopefully that causes the boom in California. And it sort of brings up like the glory days of Hmong sports when there was like state rivalries of like flag football, soccer and stuff, you know. So we hope that brews back up, because even right now, like Wisconsin and Michigan, they had like a little headbutting at a tournament, calling each other out about sandbagging and stuff.
Any fights break out during cornhole tournaments?
Oh, I hope not, man.
Okay.
So far, there hasn't been. You know,
bamboos being chucked at each other?
No.
Okay.
So far,
Good.
the community has been a tight knit community.
Yeah.
It's been a very good
That's
community.
beautiful.
A lot of the other Minnesotan clubs, you know, they've been very welcoming.
Yeah.
You know, at first we were a little bit gun shy just because of the past athletes competing at July 4th and stuff, you know, with the race rule, you know, genetically speaking, you know, we're undersized at volleyball, we're undersized at football, you know, but when it comes to the game of cornhole, anybody could play. Anybody could play, you know, so at first it was like hey, let's integrate the Hmong community into this sport. And then some of the club members, some of the other clubs was like, hey, we love what you guys are doing, introducing this to your community. Some others didn't really see it, where they go, that's reverse racism. You know, and it was like, no, it was like, we're trying to integrate them, and then we'll open it up for everybody. You know, and then one of my biggest thing about like diversity and inclusion, you know, is like, you can invite me to the dance all you want, but if you don't invite me to dance, and then it defeats the purpose of it.
Or at least create a space for you to to do your thing.
Correct. You know, so like when non-Asians come to Hmong Cornhole, it's like we welcome them. You know, they
Right.
part of our family. You know, we get them drinks, food, whatever. You know, because we're inviting you to the dance and we're asking you to dance with us. You know, we're asking you to play with us. You know, and that's where that's what makes our club so unique. And like there's admins from other clubs because we thought about changing our name from Hmong Cornhole to like Minnesota Twin Cities Cornhole or something, you know. And then a lot of the admins was like, no, stick with Hmong Cornhole. That's what make you guys unique.
Yeah.
You know. And then it's like you don't need to be Hmong to be part of Hmong Cornhole.
Yeah.
You know, that's just our identity, and you know everybody has a little bit Hmong in them. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So open arms, you know, and then you see like our friends Bobby and Joey, you know, Novak, they're white, but they rock our Hmong Cornhole jersey,
yeah.
and then there's a lot of people going, huh, you know,
Yeah.
and then it's like I help raise funds for other clubs as well, you know. You have a passion to try to pursue become a pro, I'm all for it. You know, I'm willing to give you that opportunity.
Are there currently any pro Hmong players right now?
There is not. You know, early August, myself, X, Dia. So X and Dia, they're married. They're a power couple.
Yeah.
It's crazy how good they are.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're probably one of the best in the Hmong community.
Yeah.
We did go and compete for the qualifier. X came very close to it. You know, he was like one or two games short from qualifying as a pro. He does have another opportunity in 2 weeks in South Dakota for the conference to go and compete. If he beats out the top 100, and then he becomes a pro. To be honest with you, I truly believe in the Minnesota community. There's not enough opportunity in the ACL realm to compete for it, because in order for us to get points in the circuit, we had to go to Montevideo or Rochester.
Yeah.
So that takes a toll on me.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I want to compete, but I got to take a whole weekend away from my family.
Yeah.
You know, so me being me, I went a little bit out and beyond, and I applied to become a director for the ACL so I could host in the Metro.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I did get the position. So starting October, I will be a ACL Regional Director for the Twin Cities to provide more opportunities to showcase Minnesota talents. I think that was something that was lacking, just because there's not enough directors. That doesn't mean that we lose out on the opportunity to
Yeah.
become professionals, you know, and that sucks. So it's like, hey, let me do something, you know. Can I be a pro? I don't know. I know my limitations. I love mentoring people. I love seeing people grow. I love providing opportunities for people. So that's why I applied to become the regional director, is to see these,
Yeah.
to provide the opportunity and see them grow, see them do something more than what they think that they could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the booth, like it is crazy just like how big it's gotten. Like, cause like we were playing like a couple years back, and it was just this fun yard game that everyone can enjoy. But now, like, man, it's hard to enjoy it now because you got people that are really good, like really serious. Like you got people that'll walk in to like just like, you know, we'll just be having a barbecue and people walk in with their own boards, their own bags, and they're like super serious. Then it kind of makes the game not fun anymore because then they just crush everybody there. And
Sophia
it's
says
like-
that to me, like when I'm
yeah.
practicing outside and she wants to come play. She
Yeah.
was like, "We're just playing for fun," and then in
Yeah,
my head,
right.
I'm keeping score, and she knows it. She was
Yeah.
like, "Stop! You're
Yeah.
ruining the fun," you know.
Are you able to turn it off? But I mean, you probably
can't.
don't want to
It's
do
training,
that
man.
too,
It's
right?
training. Every
Yeah,
training is
every
training, right?
opportunity. Yeah.
So
Muscle
to me,
memory.
I never let off.
Yeah.
You know, is like whenever I practice what I play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I play what I practice.
Right, right.
You know, because
More of the same.
Yeah.
it's like when I partner up with my guy 12, we used to like fuck around, you know, and then next thing you know, it sort of messes with your muscle memory. And then when it is time to get serious, you can't.
Yeah.
Or it takes a little bit to catch back
Yeah.
up, and that little bit might just bam, you're knocked out of the tournament
Yeah, yeah.
because of it. You
Yeah.
know, so it's like I tend to never let off, and then that's something that Sophia hates about me.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, "Oh, you take this game way too serious," you know,
Yeah.
and then to me it's like I have to.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a competitive edge, just because the game is so much of muscle memory. Like, you can't really afford to just start doing trick shots or doing anything like that, right? Because you're gonna throw off your form, throw off your technique.
Exactly. You will. So when I first started playing, I was like, "Oh, this technique works for me."
Yeah.
And then I felt like I was at a higher level, to begin with. And then, we won July 4th, we won Wassel. And then I was like, I want to take this to the next level, because I knew my flaws with my throw, that I was limiting myself,
Yeah.
So I taught myself how to throw a better bag in order to push better, to slide better, right? And then suddenly my skill level went from here, and I went on a slump, and then like there was so many guys who was like, what happened to you? It's like, why'd you change? Why'd you do this? And it was like, well, I want to get better. I want to get beyond that, And then suddenly, like, I went down, and then now I'm coming right back up, and I'm playing at a better level.
Yeah.
Probably not a elite level yet, but I'm playing at a
I've seen some
above
videos,
average,
yeah.
Those are
Pretty good. I've
highlights.
seen
Those
some-
are
I've
highlights.
seen-
That's just like social media. It's
Yeah.
all about highlights,
Yeah. You would be surprised, like, at how interesting some of these. Do you see them? They're like on ESPN.
Yeah, I
and,
watch
like,
some, yeah.
Every once in a while, like I'll just come across some like highlights scrolling through Facebook, and it is so impressive, like the way they're able to
Hop
like,
the
play
bag, roll the
defense on
bag.
it,
There's so much strategy behind it. Everybody, you just go down the hole. And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go down the hole. And then until I put a blocker in
Yeah.
front of the hole, then what you're going to do,
Yeah.
And then it's just like, I'll go over it. Hey, you just missed. I just pushed it in. Hey, there goes there's my 3 points, There's like the slow game, the fast game. There's so many aspects to the game that you never really think about until you actually play, and you go, "Oh, there's a fast bag, there's a slow bag, there's a fast side, there's a slow side. You could roll the bag, you could cut the bag."
So talk about that a little bit more. Are there regulations to like what kind of bags you can use, what material on the bags, and then what materials the boards can be made of? Like, I'm assuming you can't just like spit shine your board and have it be super slippery, right? Like, there's some regulations on it, right?
Well, for the boards itself, there's not really like, there's regulation size. There's not
Okay.
regulation. It's not like bowling where there's like oil patterns and all
Right,
that,
okay.
It's like, hey, it's a regulation size board.
Okay.
And that's good. The hole has to be a certain diameter. The board has to be a certain length and width. When it comes to bag, it has to be a certain, within the
The size.
size,
Yeah.
within the weight limit.
Okay.
Inside the material has to be, plastic resin.
Okay.
When it comes to fast and slow side, hey, that's on you. If you want suede that sticks, you could have suede that sticks.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you want to compete in the ACL, the American Cornhole League, you have to have a stamp bag from manufacturers, and that's pretty much them approving that bag to be used in tournaments. A lot of times when I host local events, there's no enforcement on
Right.
what bags you could use, as long as it's plastic resin and similar shape,
Yeah.
Right.
Just don't come to a tournament throwing like cornfield bags.
Yeah,
because that leaves residue on the board.
Okay.
So
Was that a thing at one point? Were people doing
oh
that?
yeah, no.
Really? Is that-
Before
is
it
that the
started,
origin?
that
Okay.
before it was
Really?
just
That's what it was.
it was
Yeah.
cornfield bags.
Cornhole.
Yep,
Makes
cornhole.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the game evolved. Is just like any sport. It evolved into pretty much plastic resin, so there's no residue. You know, but there's a whole rule book and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one more question. I'm sorry. If I wanted to step my game up a little bit, right? I'm not a very good player. Like, what are some basic things that like anybody can do to just kind of improve their game a little bit?
Come out to the Minneapolis Armory,
Okay.
Northeast Armory,
Yeah.
and play against the best. I'm just gonna tell you right now, in order
just gonna
to
watch
be the
it.
best, you gotta play the best.
That's on Broadway.
Okay.
The one
Yeah.
on Broadway.
Yo,
Yeah.
right
Oh,
off
okay.
of Broadway.
Yeah.
You know, come play the best, learn from the best, ask questions. You know, start now so you could break your habits.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to create habits than to break habits. For us that originally started, we learn from our own mistakes. So it's very hard to learn from it's very hard for us to break our habits. And then you see all these new guys come in and then they automatically know who's good, who's bad, right?
Yeah.
Or they automatically know who's good. And then they could just like study them, marry them a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Back then we didn't have that, you know. We watched. There's not really film too, right?
Yeah. Right.
There's not really like NFL highlights and stuff, you know. So it's like you just sort of have to mirror who you think is elite and go off of that, and also understand that there's no true right way of throwing a bag.
Yeah.
I have one of the most unorthodox grip and release, but it works for me. You know, and then like my buddy, he was teaching me how to roll the bag. He was like, "Oh, Alan, you gotta twist your pinky up higher."
Yeah.
I was like, "I have a bad shoulder. My pinky and my arm can't twist like
Right.
that." But I taught myself how to maneuver it, how to do it my own way. You know, so it's like IQ. I'll say cornhole IQ and shot selection and stuff. Learn from the best.
Okay.
When it comes to your shot. When it comes to your throw, your grip, your stance, do what feels the most natural to you.
Yeah.
You know, like to me, I step to throw because DNC when we march. I never knew this until I joined the military. When you naturally walk, if your left feet's going forward, your right hand's going forward. You know, so you're naturally marching, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like I step because I'm naturally moving my arm. You know, so when I throw, I step. It's more draining physically for me when I do that, but it just feels more natural to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something you got to do at your the next like breakfast barbecue.
Yeah, my
Is,
next
like,
breakfast
do
here
a
I should
cornhole.
have.
Dude,
You have plenty of space right here.
Yeah.
This is the prime.
lanes could I have? Is that what we call them? Lanes?
I think you could fit 2 lanes in your garage right here.
And we should have
Yeah,
planned
2
this better,
courts.
where we should have had you like we should have had
Two
cornhole
courts.
boards set up for you, like
Yeah.
or, like, and we should have like done this over a game of cornhole.
This is the perfect perfect amount.
All right,
Right here.
hey, yeah, we gotta
I'm
definitely
gonna hold my
co-
own tournament.
collab.
Yellow
Yeah.
sponsored cornhole tournament.
Yeah,
dude,
just let me
on
know.
some boards,
I'll
put
help
the
you.
logo
I'll
on
help
the
you
board.
run it.
Yeah, let me ask, are the pro cornholers, I guess? Can they make a living?
Athletes,
Yeah. Can you make like what's the highest prize you've seen in cornhole at all levels?
I think prize money wise, you're not gonna make a living off of it.
Yeah.
I think it's more of the sponsorship and
Sure.
more of your sponsorships that will
Give you some
allow
funds
you
to travel,
correct,
to compete.
correct, do it on a full-time basis.
Right.
You know, if you're a complete shark, I'm pretty sure you could get probably like $200-300 per week, and you know, going to these local
Yeah.
tournaments and you know, just beating them
Right,
out.
just
You know,
beating,
hustling
but
kids.
right now, to be honest, it's like I think Hmong Cornhole is like one of the toughest blind draw for somebody to come and take the money from, you know. But like these pros, I've heard somebody said to me that he gets sponsored $30,000 a year.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You know, to go and
What
play.
have I been doing with my life?
But everybody like there's one that's still a teacher but he's a professional player. There's one that's a Costco manager.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like as of right now, you're not gonna break the bank
Yeah,
to
right.
be a cornhole player.
Yeah.
You know, but
But it doesn't mean that like in the future, like it, because I mean it's rising
It's
so
growing.
fast. I can't imagine
Yeah.
there like there's probably so many people like wanting to jump on, especially sponsors, and like there's and in the like in social media, like those highlight clips work perfect with like reels and like
how
Instagram
how
reels
how
and,
fast
like,
the
TikTok.
game is
Yeah.
growing
Yeah.
with the ACL. They already got ESPN deal, right? They already got
Yeah, yeah.
CBS Sports deal. sooner or later it's gonna start booming, and that's why I tell all my guys, I was like, enjoy it now when you can interact with the pros and stuff, and then soon enough it's gonna be like the NFL where you can't even talk to them, you know. It's
Yeah.
because of how like the celebrity status.
How,
You
how
know,
much is it gonna cost me to put my logo on one of your bags?
on one of my bags, I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, put your logo on my bag. I would say put your logo on my jersey.
Shirt, yeah.
Ah,
You know,
okay.
because I'm a firm believer of sponsorships at any level.
Okay.
Okay. And I try to help as many people as possible too. It's like if you want to pursue this professional journey, a lot of times what the professionals do is they have 5 spots for their sponsors, and then you pretty much sell your spot. To me, it's not like, oh, it's 500 each spot. To me, I will probably approach you and say, hey, how about I'm planning to go on these 5 trips across the nation. Would you pay for my my airfare? Right? If you do so, that's like the prime package. You'll be right in the front. You know, and this is something that I haven't announced yet, you know, but September 5th I will. You know, I'm actually starting up my own business called Pro Shot. You know, and then the my model is creating tomorrow's champions today. No, empowering tomorrow's champions today.
Yeah.
So my big goal is, and a lot of times, a lot of these individuals, they don't know their own brand. They don't know that they are their own brand, you know? So what I want to help is I want to help you start your own brand. I'm not going to sponsor you. I'm going to hire you, okay? I'm going to hire you as one of my salesmen, right? And then you're going to get 50% of all sales commission of you selling your own brand. You know, so that way, when you want to branch off of me and go do your own brand, go for it. That's on you. I just want to get you there because I want to provide you that mentorship. I want to provide you that opportunity, you know, and a lot of times they're like, oh, sponsor me $500 for what?
Yeah.
What's my return? You know, what's my return on investment? You know, hey, social media platform. People don't know the power of social media. You know, when I go eat, I look at TikTok. You know, when I go out of town, I go TikTok. You know, and then like the benefits of being a social media husband is I see how much money comes in for Sophia to advertise. You know, and it's like you could advertise yourself. You know, you could work for that you could work for that company instead of just saying, "Hey, you know, give me $500." That's your hard-earned $500. You know, I want 10 social media posting. I want to see your following. I want to see you grow. I want to see you tag me. You know, I even see professionals where they go, "Oh, I want to give a shout out to my sponsors." That doesn't help anything. I want to give a shout out to Alan and Pro Shot. I want to give a shout out to Tony and Game Related. I want to give a shout out to Tu and Yilo. You know, so it's like help them with some PR, help them with some social media skills, help them with some highlights, and at the end of the day, they're selling themselves. So when they do get the big brand, they already know what to expect. They already know what to offer.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
like media training for
correct.
for like,
Yeah, and sometimes some of these individuals just need one person to believe in them. You know, because it only takes one person to discourage somebody, and that person may never pursue their dreams because there was a naysayer. You know, but I want to be the person that believes in you. I believe in everybody. Sophia says I'm too nice. You know, it's like I trust in everybody. Like I give you my trust. You don't need to earn my trust, but you could lose my trust. You know, it's like I trust you.
Just like
I trust everybody.
Just like you do your soldiers. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I trust you until you give me a reason not to. You know, I believe in you until you give me a reason not to. You know, so I just want to provide that opportunity for anybody.
Yeah. And then we can kind of hold off to release the episode till the September the 5th.
Yep.
But like,
I
how do
appreciate
people
it.
find you? How do people like? How do you know? You said you got a guy traveling in 2 weeks. Like, if people wanted to support him, how do they go about doing that? Like, how do people find you and like?
So there's two ways. Hmong Cornhole, just Hmong Cornhole on Facebook. There's a private group. We try to keep it as professional as possible, especially with sponsors that we currently have. So you could come there, ask the questions, follow. I tend to post quite often when it comes to tournaments and future tournaments and those pursuing to become a pro. There's also our Hmong Cornhole page. It's not so active, but at the same time, that's the best way to get a hold of me if you're not Facebook friends with me right now. TikTok, I'm on TikTok, chiefly Cornhole. So I tend to post highlights, but I've been slowing down on posting, but I'm constantly on there. If you see us playing cornhole, more than likely I'm there. So just come out. Yeah. I'll give you my 2 cents. I'll help you to the best of my ability. The thing that kind of sucks too is hosting some of these tournaments could get very hectic. So if I look a little bit grumpy, I look a little mad, just take a little second, and then you'll see me smiling right after. I tend to have a resting bitch face. That's what my wife says it. But at the same time, I'm extremely approachable. Everybody, I hope everybody appreciates what I try to do for the community.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Thank you for coming. And
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
I
that with
appreciate
us.
you coming through. I think this was an interesting conversation. We didn't go too far with too many topics. We kept it more military and then just cornhole. But those are the points that me and Peng also talked about. Like, hey, what are we going to talk about with Alan? Because with every guest that we come here, we always trying to figure out, like, what are some things that they do really well and what are they big in? And that's what we try to dive into. And when you have something unique like this, especially coming from a different angle, like you have pretty specific angles, both on the military side and the cornhole side. So it's nice for you to just come here, share it. Peng and I always say the same thing. We don't know who's listening to this. Could be no one. Could be 2-3 people. Could be somebody who loves cornhole, and now they get to learn more about maybe the history or things that they didn't know, or maybe it's somebody who's planning to go in the military and they learned something today out of this conversation. And we always like to expose not just the positives of everything, but also like the downsides to certain things. And I think in this conversation, we kind of did that. We talked about some of the upsides of the military, some of the downsides. And then for cornhole, we got a lot of promotion out of it for you. So
yeah, I truly appreciate that. When it comes to the military aspect, I'm more than willing to sit down, talk with anybody, with their parents, with the future soldier, future Marine, seaman, whatever. Just come talk to me. I'm more than willing to share my experience. I'm not gonna automatically say no. I'm not gonna automatically tell you to join. I'm just gonna tell you the honest, brutal truth of the military and my experience and my benefits from it. And if it's something for you, hey, feel free to join, because I truly believe that we do need more people that join the military, because a lot of people do get the great experience from it. Yeah. And unfortunately, there are some that get the shitty leaders and get a shitty experience as well, and I feel bad for that. And hopefully that's not the case for everybody. Yeah. Cornhole has been a passion, and it's been so fun meeting so many new people, so many different people, different aspects of life, and learning from them. I got so many new great friends from it that I would never thought I would. So it's a phenomenal environment. It's a phenomenal community. Yeah. I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
For coming by, man.
Hey, I appreciate it.